What is up, everybody? I'm No Lux Given, back with more Demon Bluff, but we're not actually going to play Demon Bluff in this video. Well, we are. We're just not going to load up Demon Bluff. Instead, we're going to load up Discord and head over to the Daily Puzzle channel of the official Demon Bluff Discord, where DatLad11 curates villages every single day for players to test their Demon Bluff knowledge. They gave me a few that they thought might be a good place to start with, but if you have any daily puzzles from DatLad11 that you want to see me try, let me know in the comments, and maybe we will do a part 2. But we are starting off here with village number 98, and I've got that loaded up right here. We can see some information about this village already. We have got a witch that we can tell because this oracle is talking about a witch, and we know it's a Lilith village because Lilith has killed someone, and we have the day-night tracker over here. I do want to say also just a little bit behind the scenes stuff. So initially, DatLad was just taking villages from the game, just screenshots that he thought were interesting because he plays a lot of Demon Bluff, as you can see over here. Since then, he started to edit villages, and now he just creates villages from scratch completely. So these are all ones that they're basically puzzles that DatLad has put together specifically for the community to solve. So huge shout outs to DatLad for putting all of this together. Let's see what we can put together with the information that we have here. Villages by default are blind mode, but I did take a peek at this village already, and we might take a look at what baddies and what possible outcasts are available. We'll see. So we've got an oracle saying that either 5 or 8 is the witch, but 8 is dead, and we know that 8 is not the witch. So I think that just means it's between 5 and 8. Or 5 and 1. We also see that the Plague Doctor has information about 5 and 1, saying that 5 is corrupted and 1 is evil. That is really interesting. We've got a knight, nothing about them, and we have a jester that says 4, 5, 6, and a druid with those same 3 numbers. The druid potentially pointing at like a doppelganger right here, and also pointing at a plague doctor, which could be wrong. The plague doctor might just also be an evil, but or we just have an evil druid. That is also definitely a possibility. We know that one of these, or it's possible that one of these 3 is evil. It could also just be the jester, like it could be the jester, the druid, and the oracle. And then this hunter is getting good information, and this plague doctor actually has corrupted the hunter. And this could be the counselor creating a doppelganger right here. I think that that's actually like totally possible with the information that we have. Let me write this down real quick here, just so that way you can pay attention. So we've got the plague doctor. Whoops, I meant to make that blue because that's typically the color that I use for the plague doctor. So the plague doctor could have corrupted this. This could be the doppelganger created by the counselor, and then this is just lying information. This could just be lying information by being another evil, and then this could just be lying information. And that would make the knight good, and this good, and this good. And I think all of that would check out. Okay. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back to this puzzle. Before I make any kills, I actually do think I should probably look at the deck list, but I also want to show how these puzzles work. You can scroll down and find an execute list, and 8 is already dead, of course, so we can't execute them, but we can click execute on any other characters, and this will basically simulate how you would execute characters in Demon Bluff. What did I want to kill? Oh, I wanted to consider just stabbing the knight. and seeing how that works. What should I do? Should I click on the deck list, or let's stab the knight first and let's see that that is indeed a knight. And because it doesn't say that the knight is corrupted, I'm going to assume that that just means the knight is good. My whole strategy right now, or my whole solve, I should say, relies on the idea that there is a counselor creating a doppelganger. If there isn't a counselor in this deck list, then we're going to have to reconfigure our idea. So let's see if there is a counselor. And there is. Oh, Chancellor. That's what it's called. And we do have a doppelganger as a potential outcast that the Chancellor is creating. I like this then. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are other ideas, but I think the first thing that we do want to start with is stabbing this druid in seat 7. And we are hoping that that is, I mean, either the witch or the Lilith, or this could be the Chancellor too, creating this plague doctor right here. Oh yeah, that is very, very possible. Oh, and if that's the Chancellor, that is huge information. That means that this plague doctor has to be good. I mean, this could be the outcast instead. That's also very possible, but I think that this plague doctor is now telling the truth. We did indeed find the corrupted hunter, and that makes number 1 actually a baddie. That is Lilith. Okay, cool. And I think to finish it off, number 3 is probably just the witch lying about these doppelganger hunters. Bang on. Okay, that was my first attempt here at a Datlad village, and maybe let's see if we can step it up a notch. Next, I'm going to try puzzle 101. Datlad said that this might also be a good introductory puzzle, and I don't want to get too cocky. I actually, a few weeks ago, tried one of the puzzles. I don't remember which one it was, but it took me a good 20 minutes. I misread some things, to be totally honest, but I don't want to get too cocky with this. Let's take a look at puzzle number 101. Today's village is the mark of the next 100 villages to come, starting off the new era with a witness-themed village. Okay, we can see that there are 3 witnesses. I will pull it up here on the big screen. There are 2 evils, and I don't know anything about either of these evils. I know that the hunter is 4 cards away from the closest evil, and we do actually have 2 outcasts. So that could account for the plague doctor. Well, a plague doctor saying something is not corrupted either means that they are actually the plague doctor, or they are not the plague doctor and they are pointing at either the drunk or the poisoner. I do think I should maybe look at the deck list. Ooh, what does this say? This is 1, 7, and 8. There are no outcasts. Well, I think part of that has to break. I think the druid is not going to work out here. Right side more evil. There's a lot of things to take in here. I'm just trying to solve for the first card though right now. This is definitely a little bit of a step up. Only 2 evils. I don't know, feels like it's even like we have so much more things to consider because Lilith already killed a card and the witch made it so that a card wasn't flipped in the last village. So I never even got to process those pieces of information. So what I wanted to look at here is if the plague doctor is an evil, they would always say that this is corrupted unless it was actually corrupted. And it could be corrupted by a poisoner, or this could be the poisoner actually corrupting it, and then the plague doctor could lie about it. Okay, that's the only way that we could actually get no outcasts there. Because the other thing I was thinking was like, okay, well, what if this is not the plague doctor and this is the drunk? But this could just be the poisoner and this could be a poison corrupted hunter. Is anything talking about number 8 getting affected by an evil? No. But this is also a heck of a lot of witnesses. in order for there to be 3 of something, one has to be evil, right? Yes. Because you could have a double claim from a doppelganger. Oh, and you could have a shaman. Right, okay. It's been a second since I've played some Demon Bluff and we're jumping into the deep end here. We could have a doppelganger and a shaman. You know what? We're going to go and reveal the deck list here. A counselor, a poisoner, a shaman, all of these things would create like vastly different worlds. So let's see what we actually have. We have a shaman and a puka. Okay, and then Plague Doctor, Doppelganger. We have both a Plague Doctor and a Doppelganger. That is just guaranteed at this point. Okay. So, if we are seeing a Plague Doctor, they have to be good. Where's my mouse here? Oh, I shut down Paint. Okay, perfect. If we are seeing a Plague Doctor, they have to be good. This not being corrupted could just mean it's evil. Okay, this druid also has to at the very least have wrong information because they are pointing at an outcast. Is anyone saying, well, here's what's interesting. In order for, we have a doppelganger and a shaman. So, either all 3 witnesses are correct, or 2 witnesses are correct and both hunters are real. If all 3 witnesses are correct, that would mean that the hunters could, like, almost just contain the evil team. Okay, wait, here's a potential... No. There would be way too much... There would be way too much misinformation if this was evil, this would be the shaman, and this was the puka corrupting here and here. This would be wrong, this would be wrong, this would be wrong. Actually, one of these 2 could be correct because they're talking about the shaman creation. So that would actually work, but only for one of them. The other one wouldn't make any sense. This would actually be correct. Oh, this can never be the puka. This can never be the puka because if it's the puka... Wait a second. No, it can be. This can be the puka if this is the doppelganger. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, yeah, we've got our work cut out for us on this one, and we cannot forget about the Plague Doctor corruption. I'm going to take all of this stuff off the board, but then I'm also just going to draw a blue here, because we actually have 3 potential pieces of corruption, the Plague Doctor, and the 2 sat adjacent to the puka. We have 2 evils, and there's 3 cards left. Wait, no. We have 3 pieces of corruption, the 2 evils, the Plague Doctor, and then there's 2 pieces of information left. Okay, this one is definitely a step up, I think, because there's a chance that not much on this board is true. Now, if the puka is next to the Plague Doctor or next to the doppelganger, that could mask some of what is going on here. I do have to feel like the hunter is probably evil, because they're not Plague Doctor corrupted. We know that the hunter is not Plague Doctor corrupted. So starting off, definitely thinking that this hunter is one of our evils. If this hunter, like, their numbers don't make sense together, because this hunter is pointing at the witness, which is only 3 away from this hunter in seat 8, And that would mean that potentially, I guess what we should try to do maybe is see if we can come up with a solve where this hunter in seat 8 is actually correct. Let's see if anything like this would ever be possible. And 4 away, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, wait, no. Okay. This is just not possible information. Going to, let me just undo those moves there. I think that this hunter's information can never be true. And it's not corrupted, and the plague doctor has to be real. All right, it took me a little bit to get there, but I'm ready to execute this hunter. And I think that's where we should actually just start. So let's go to number 8 here, and let's execute them. That was our shaman. Okay, that makes sense. Which means all 3 witnesses are good. That actually just clears all 3 witnesses immediately because this can no longer be shaman or doppelganger created, which means all 3 of these have to be, oops, not that color. They have to all be good. This is shaman or doppelganger, this is shaman or doppelganger, and this is shaman or doppelganger or the original villager. I will say, we do also know now that this information is wrong. I'm not willing to execute this hunter just yet, because we'd have to figure out some other things first. Interestingly, I said this could not be the puka. Because if this is the puka, it is corrupting number 7. Wow, wait a second. What if this is the doppelganger? And I know my, colors are getting a little bit confusing here, but what if this is the doppelganger, meaning it actually has true information? That means, well, we do have to figure out these 2 for a second, but I'm thinking this could be a corrupted villager. This could actually be the puka, telling us the right side is more evil. Huh. You know what? I think that there's something that's a little bit simpler. Because then why is this druid saying that there are no outcasts among 1, 7, and 8, when we know that the plague doctor has to be real? That means that this druid has to either be the plague doctor corrupted. Oh wait, does that work? Oh, only for a second, because we haven't tried to sort out these 2 pieces of witness information yet. That's where things are really going to break down. They're pointing at each other, and one of them gets to be correct. One of them gets to be correct because the other one is created by a shaman. However, they can't both be created by the shaman. This hunter does have incorrect information as well. However, I am now going to say that this hunter is our plague doctor corrupted hunter. This architect, actually just correct. This witness, actually wrong. Because the hunter is plague doctor corrupted. I thought I had it. I thought that this druid was the puka, and they were trying to corrupt both of these, but one was a doppelganger. And we'll say this one is a doppelganger. It doesn't actually matter which one, but this one's a doppelganger. So it's getting correct information that it's getting correct information that number 4 was affected by an evil. Because number 4 was affected by the adjacent puka. And this one is getting incorrect information because this witness is actually getting correct information since the puka cannot corrupt the doppelganger. But then why is this witness saying that 7 was affected by an evil when 7 was actually affected by the plague doctor? Well, they can't both be shaman created. So if one is shaman created, then that makes the other witness correct. I'm pretty sure when a shaman creates an additional copy of something, both of them are not affected by the shaman. I believe that that's not how it works. Maybe the shaman did make both of these two correct informations pointing at each other. Sure. Except that doesn't really make any sense to me, because that would mean that this is the doppelganger, which would mean it always has true information. And 7 isn't affected by an evil if they are evil. Yeah. It just doesn't work. Well, okay. So what if then this is the puka? They are just corrupting this. They cannot corrupt the doppelganger. And then the shaman is actually making both of these things say that they were affected by an evil. Is that how a shaman works? Is that what we're learning here? This is the only thing that makes sense to me. And then the druid has to be plague doctor corrupted. The shaman makes both of these witnesses correct. This witness is correct because it's a doppelganger, and it's protected from the puka architect, which is corrupting the hunter. That's all I've got. I have to go for that, I think, because that's the closest thing to making sense out of everything that I think I've exhausted here. So I am going to execute number 6, and that is the puka. Okay, I'm going to read a little bit about this on Discord and see if I can't figure out what just happened. So checking through the comments, there were definitely some other players confused as well, but looking at the Demon Bluff Almanac, we can see that a witness does look at both the original and cloned villager from a shaman as being affected by an evil. And a lot of these puzzles may potentially prey on some really niche interactions in the game, but we were ultimately able to get there just because nothing else really seemed to make any sense. I did mention earlier in this video that I had previously, a few weeks ago, tried one of these puzzles before. So I actually want to show off that puzzle, and I do already know the solution, but I had solved it a few weeks ago, so I kind of forget, to be totally honest. So I might just be recovering some already treaded ground here. But part of the reason that I wanted to show this off is my previous video, I did a challenge where I tried to have Lilith kill one of the members of the evil team. And part of what inspired me to do that was this puzzle where Lilith has already killed one of her minions. I was also inspired by Uzabi posting kind of cryptically about secret achievements in Demon Bluff, and I was like, oh, well, if there is a secret achievement, maybe it's getting Lilith to kill one of her minions. So that was partially why I did that for my last video as well, and I also just thought it would be fun. But yes, this was also part of my inspiration. This village here from Datlad, which I believe is number 70. And we actually do have a lot of information on this one again. One of our minions is dead. We know that it's a Lilith village, and we also know that we have a minion as one of the minions. This is something that I missed on my first playthrough. I missed that when the Oracle says minion, they are talking about the character named Minion, not the type of character classification of minion. And I think that that's possibly something that Uzabi might want to fix, just because it's a little bit tricky. And but that's what these puzzles are all about, like understanding some of the niche mechanics. And with that, we can actually solve this puzzle blind, because we do see that there's only supposed to be one outcast in this village, and we have the wretch. The wretch is always good and always the wretch. It might register as otherwise, but we know that this guy's our friend. Oh yeah, I gotta put paint back on the screen. Okay, cool. So the wretch is... Wait, what's going on here? Okay, good. The wretch is good. I don't know why I can't see my pencil. Oh, it's because I'm clicking on this. Okay, great. The wretch is good. Bingo. Bango. Okay, sorry. That took me a second. Now, you might just immediately think that means that the bombardier is bad. However, the bishop's information says that between 4, 7, and 1, there is a minion, outcast, and villager. And this means the type minion, not the character minion. So from here, we either know that this bishop is lying, or there actually is another outcast in play. And let's just mark those real quick. Let's go to blue, and let's say that between 4, 7, and 1, all of these are in the bishop information, and we'll tag the bishop in there as well, because the bishop could be evil, right? Now, I do think I kind of remember... Oh, yes. Okay, so here's where things start to break down. The bishop could be lying, right? And there might not be another outcast. We don't think that there's another outcast. However, if the bishop is lying, it will point at 3 villagers, because this bishop is pointing at what appears to be an outcast, at least. This could be a minion, but it's not a villager. And if it's a minion, that means that this bishop is still telling the truth, and we then potentially have a doppelganger or a drunk in the bishop information. So, even though we're like playing it blind, we figured out that we actually do have a counselor or chancellor as our third evil, in addition to the minion and Lilith. We also only have to find 2 of the evils. If you look at the description, today's village is about 10 who died in a horrific Lilith accident. So we do know that number 10 is one of our minions. We don't know which one, so number 10 could potentially be the chancellor that created the drunk right here. That is very possible. We do see that 1 or 9 is a minion. We know that it's not 9 because they were the first to die to Lilith, but it could be 1. And we also know that there's no corruption on this village at all, as opposed to the last puzzle, which had a bunch of corruption and funky information to try to sort between. This one has absolutely no corruption here. So yeah, now I have to remember how to solve this puzzle again, because I do actually forget. So this could be the chancellor creating the drunk, at which point 5 is not good. 5 would be evil. 4 would be evil. This hunter would be wrong. So that doesn't work, because there is no room for corruption. Also, this oracle would be wrong. So let's get rid of the idea that this is the chancellor and this is the drunk. We could say that this is the chancellor and this is the bombardier. Then they are lying about this chancellor here. that would make the gem crafter. Right, wait, yeah, if this is the drunk I got... Wait, yeah. So that is basically what I was just saying before. Oh, but it still doesn't work, right? Because if this... And I do think I remember the solution, so I'm trying to, like, drag this out a little bit here and just explore everything that I did explore when I did this 2 weeks ago. So, forgive me. But if this is the Chancellor creating this Bombardier, then this is wrong. So this would be our other evil, which checks out with the Oracle information. This Bombardier would then be real. But then this would be... This would then have to be our villager. And we already have the whole evil team. This would be the villager in the bishop's information. So I don't think that works. And there might be some other interesting permutations here that I am not exploring. But what I got really tripped up on is I was like, okay, so either maybe there's a solution where now this is the Chancellor creating the doppelganger. Maybe we want to look at that. That would make both of these hunters correct. Yeah, this is the next thing I explored. This is the Chancellor. Both of these are good. 5 is good. This is just Lilith. But that doesn't really work, but I'll get back to that in just a second. Because I think I'm very close to the solve. And maybe this is the doppelganger created by the Chancellor right here. What I did not consider, because the whole time I was like, okay, the wretch is here. We need to figure out where the Chancellor created the second outcast, right? And I think that was like a very easy thing for me to get tricked into. However, what if the wretch is actually outcast number 2? What if this Bombardier is just the Chancellor? Oops. We're going to say that the Bombardier is the Chancellor. And that will be... Sure, that will satisfy this. What if the Hunter is the doppelganger? And that would leave the gem crafter to be the villager in this bishop's information. This outcast is creating the wretch, and that makes this information correct. It makes this information correct. It makes this information correct, meaning that this is Lilith lying about 9 and 1, and the Jester just simply does not matter. They are good. That is the trick to this puzzle, I believe. And it's still a little, nerve-wracking because you never want to kill the Bombardier until you know you have to. But we do see that the Counselor... Okay, yeah, this was the Counselor. I was right, because this is an old enough puzzle. Let's first check number 6 and see if that's Lilith, and then let's check number 4 and see that that Bombardier is indeed the Counselor. And that's the solution for that puzzle. I did think that this was also a pretty good puzzle and did really trip me up because I just got into the idea that, okay, Wretch is the outcast number 1. Where is the Counselor creating the second outcast? But yeah, you can't just take something like that for granted. And that is going to be it for this video. If there are other daily puzzles, I do have a list of some other suggestions from Datlad himself, but if there are some puzzles, there's some cool ones. We look, puzzle 69, it makes a lot of sense. There's a bunch of lovers. I went through and I saw there was one that was like a bunch of poets somewhere in here recently that seemed fun. So there's a lot of cool stuff, and I do believe there are also, this is wild. There are, I don't know if this follows like the normal rules or how this works, but there are some puzzles that DatLad has created with experimental characters that he's created just for these puzzles even. So there's a lot of cool stuff to explore here, and I wanted to do a video just telling all of y'all to check out these puzzles and all of the hard work that DatLad has put into it. Every single day they are posting away. For the past almost 4 months at this point, there are over 100 days of daily villages. So check it out and let me know which ones you want me to check out in the future. But for today, that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'm No Lex Given. Peace.